in the form of advertising. If you weren't here for last Sunday's service, please go online and on our Facebook page or on our website and watch or listen to last week's sermon. I listened to it again this week and it inspired me again, so y'all can, you may be missing some pieces of everything that's going on if you didn't catch last week, because I laid out some things that we've been doing. How many classes named yourselves this morning? We did. The adults, the only ones that got a name this morning. Oh my goodness.
We're life group number 1.
Huh?
Life group number 1.
Okay. Well, the adult class, the class that meets in the sanctuary, is the God Chaser. Alright? So I'll be asking until we get names for every group. Okay? That's part of what we're doing. And we don't have teachers anymore. We've got
facilitators.
Alright, very good. We got the right answers. Listen. Okay. Praise God. How many of you here had a mother? Golly! Alright. How many of you in here have or had a mother? That should be 100% participation. None of us got here up here, did we? Oh, boy. I'm going to have to take... I think I play in a club in Vegas as hard as y'all are today. We're going to really... How many of you have or have had or were born from a woman? Okay. Okay, we got it now. Okay. This is Mother's Day. It is the day we celebrate the person who gave us birth. And I had a mother. I was born, really. Believe it or not. I wasn't always like this. Really? But, as I was praying and thinking this week, I only really have 2 really vivid memories of my mother before the accident. For those of you who don't know, my mother and dad and baby brother were in a car accident when I was 6 years old in 1962, October the 14th. They were coming back from seeing the leaves in the Smoky Mountains, and they were hit by a drunk driver. It should have killed my mother, but my praying grandmas in church prayed her to stay on this side, but she was very severely brain damaged and physically damaged, and I grew up in a damaged home. But before that, I remember 2 things very vividly. When I was 6 years old, when I turned 6 years old, she threw me a birthday party. And until I was 40, it was the only birthday party I ever had. June threw me one for my 40th. It was the only birthday party that I ever had. And I remember it very clearly. It was a very special day that I held on to. And then I remember when I was in the 1st grade, just the first couple of weeks of school, on Sunday afternoon, we had went and picked muscadines off the muscadine vine at my grandparents' farm, and I ate too many of them, so Monday morning I was sick. I went to school, but I got sick at school, and I remember my mother coming to get me and taking care of me and nursing me back to that, and only a couple of weeks later she had the accident. So it was very precious, that I'm fortunate because I'm the oldest of 3 boys. I'm the only one who has good memories of my mother. Both of my younger brothers don't remember anything. But Valerie, if you can bring up a picture of my mother before the wreck. Now, I know it's kind of hard to see, but the reincarnation of her is sitting on the front row right there. Okay? Really, But after the wreck, the only good picture I could find this morning, because she never quit talking, so she's talking there, but she's holding one of the grandbabies, and I believe that's Bo. I may be wrong, but that's her. But she, I lived after the wreck for moments of clarity. That when I was going through a divorce and my I was the first one that got the divorce in the family. And I want to tell you, back in the 80s, that was bad. I mean, I was being condemned by my grandparents and my dad. And I remember in a special moment of clarity that she told me how much she loved me and that it was going to be okay. And you know, I recognize, you know, I live for those moments through the years. Because regardless of what she said and what she did, I always knew at the heart of it, she really loved me, even when she wanted to kill me. But I live for the moments that she would really tell me that she loved me. It's a very special part of my life. Back in 1989, I got my other mother, and she's sitting on the second row right there. We got a picture there of Granny, but she took me in. Well, she actually took me in before me and June got married, because she went to work for me in about 1985. And when I hired June, I made June promise she wasn't like her mom. But June lied. Because today, I mean, never mind. You know, but I love Granny and I appreciate her. And did you find the picture? You didn't. Okay. I couldn't find it. The other mama in my life was Mama Summers. Hat lady, for those of you who remember Douglasville days. And as I came into the ministry, we became very close, and she made many visits to the church and was just an awesome anointed lady who spoke into my life in such a fantastic, awesome way. She would tell me exactly what God wanted me to hear, whether I liked it or not. She was blunt. Of course, I also had Sister Ruth who would do that too, but Sister Summers, or Mama Summers, was very special, and we spoke to her daughter Sherry this morning on the way to church this morning to tell her Happy Mother's Day. All of us have mothers. Okay? Some of us have good memories, some of us don't. Not so good memories. But we wouldn't be here without it. In the Bible, I want to tell you 3 stories this morning as about different mothers that Scripture tells us about. That each had a different experience and a different walk with God. But because of what they did, it had an impact on the children. The first one was Ruth. Now, Ruth was a Moabite. She wasn't from Israel. And she married, her mother-in-law Naomi and father and 2 sons moved out of Israel during a time of a famine and drought. So they moved down and they married Moabite women. The 2 sons did, but the husband and the 2 sons all died. And it left Naomi a widow along with the 2 daughters-in-law. Well, Naomi decided that she would go back to Israel to see if she could find a way of making it. She was a stranger in the land, but she was going to send her daughter-in-laws back to their families because, according to the custom of the time, if a husband died, then his wife was to marry the next brother in line because the brother was supposed to take care of her. But since there was no brothers, there was no one to take care of Ruth. So Ruth could have went back to her family, back to her daddy's house, and became a widow and married anyone in the country there in Moab. But Ruth said that she was not going to leave her mother-in-law. She says, I'm going to go where you go, and I'm going to dwell where you dwell, and my God is your God, and I will stay there. So she followed and went with Naomi back. And Ruth, in that time, there was 2 things that a widow could do to make a living. One of them was beg, and the other one was become a prostitute. Well, Ruth chose to beg. And the way that the actual way it wasn't begging, but it was going to a field and asking could they gather the scraps in the field, because the way that the Jewish customs were is whenever they would go in to harvest a field, they wouldn't harvest all the way the corners. They would leave the corners for the poor that wanted to come and beg and pick up in order to be able to be fed. And that's how Ruth lived. But she found favor with the man that owned the field, and he told, y'all leave more. Y'all leave more scraps for blessings. Y'all leave a bigger area for her to be able to gather from. But in the course of time, she found favor with the man by the name of Boaz, and she married. Now, we realize that when we look at Jesus' lineage, there's mention of Ruth in it. Because Ruth was great-grandma to David. Because she was honorable and chose an honorable way, she became great-grandmother to David. And that's an awesome thing. Because she could have chose to go back to Mama's house, Daddy's house, and live in a land, but she saw a promise. And because of the promise of goodness in the land of Israel, she found something in her mother-in-law, Naomi, which really says a lot for Naomi, that, because there's sometimes a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship can be very strained. Okay, Granny. It can. But Ruth found something very special. She became David's grandmother. Now, just a few years after this, there was a lady by the name of Hannah. Now, Hannah didn't have any children. And Hannah went up to worship at the time of the year. And one particular year, well, the custom of the time is men had more than one wife. And if a wife was favored by God, she would have many children. So Hannah didn't have any children, but even though her husband loved her, she had no children. And it made her very sad, and it also made the other wife be able to taunt her and tell her how unloved she is and how pitiful she is and how worthless she is because she didn't have any children. So she goes to the temple, the tabernacle to worship and bring an offering to the Lord, and she begins to pray. And the prophet at the time, priest Eli, thought she was drunk because of how her heart ached, because she wanted a child. And she sought God, and she was sick to God. She says, no, I'm not drunk like you think, but I'm childless, and I want a child. And she cried out to God, and she says, Lord, if you'll just let me have a child, I will give him to you. And he will be yours all of his days. And the prophet, priest, told her, this time next year you'll have a child. Sure enough, she had a child. And after the child was weaned and old enough, his name was Samuel. And she brought him back to that priest and said, here, I want you to raise him in the tabernacle. Now Samuel was the first prophet of Israel. Samuel was raised to where he was sleeping close enough to the Holy of Holies in the mercy seat that he could hear the voice of God from a little child. All right? He could hear the voice of God, but he didn't know it was the voice of God. It was such an amazing lesson when we think about Samuel as a little child. But you could hear God, but you may not know that it's God. Eli, who was an aged prophet who was right there in the same place, he knew the voice of God, but he wasn't hearing the voice of God because there was hindrances in his life. What happened is the older taught the younger how to discern. And it shows that we need those. But Samuel was raised up in the tabernacle. He was raised and became the first prophet. He anointed Saul to be the first king. He anointed David to be the second king of Israel. Mighty powerful, because Mama was willing to go and seek God and then give him. She came every year and visited him, brought him new clothes as he grew, but she left him there for Eli to raise. But she also went back and God blessed her womb, and she had many children after that. there's another one I want to talk about. How many of you know who Bathsheba is? Ever heard the name? Have you ever really thought of her as a mother? Oh. See, most of the stories that are told about Bathsheba is Bathsheba and David committed adultery. And we hear all of this, you know, but the child that was conceived in adultery, because of the child, David killed her husband Uriah, tried to cover it up, tried to cover up the affair, did all the things. And David, this was a spiral for David. David even pronounced a death sentence on himself, and God wouldn't allow him to carry it out. But the child of that union passed away. But she became pregnant. And she became pregnant with a son that they named Solomon. Now Solomon was one of the younger sons of David. Now David had a lot of sons. He had a lot of troublesome sons. He had Amnon, who was killed by Absalom. And then Absalom tried to take over the kingdom, and Absalom died by getting hung in a tree. His hair, he was such a handsome guy, you know. Bo's out there right now. You know. Absalom had he was so handsome, and he had such gorgeous hair he wouldn't cut it. He wore it in huge locks, and he was riding his horse, running in the battle, and his hair got hung up in a tree. Jerked him off of his horse, and he wound up dying at that place. But, so he wasn't meant to be king following David. But as David got old, he also had another son by the name of Adonijah. Now Adonijah decided he wanted to be king. And he was, I guess, one of those rebellious sons that you might say, that thought he would take advantage of Daddy because Daddy's sick, getting old, and his time's wearing down. And so he went and declared himself king. But Bathsheba, the wise mother and woman that she was, went to David. And she told David all about what had happened. Because all this was done in secret. And she says, who is it that you want to be? Who is it that you choose? Because you know, if Adonijah becomes king, the first thing he's going to do is kill me and Solomon. Because he knows how much you love us. And David's decree was to make Solomon the king. Solomon only became king because of the wisdom of his mother. Had it not been for a mother that was willing to speak up and see what was in God's plan for her son, Adonijah might have got away with it, and we would have a whole different story from there on about what happened in Israel. But Solomon, as you know, as you may not know, Solomon became the first king after David. But Solomon was asked, what is it? God loved Solomon so much. He said, what is it that you want from me? You know, it's not often that God will come and in Scripture that we say, here, I'm giving you the checkbook, you just write out whatever you want. All right? Now think about it. What would you ask for if God handed you the checkbook and said you can have anything you want? But what Solomon asked for is wisdom and understanding in order to rule Israel. And God was so impressed. He said, not only will I give you wisdom and you'll be wiser than any man that ever lived, but you'll also have the riches and all the other things that go with it. And our Scripture says that Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. But the only reason he got to be the wisest man is because he had one more wise mom that knew how to speak and declare. He never would have made it to be king. Because he didn't become king by battle, by killing, by fighting and taking over. He became king because his mother was willing to do what it takes. Folks, if you've got a mama that's got wisdom, that's willing to speak in your life, listen. Listen. A New Testament mama that we're told about. Paul refers to mother and grandma when talking to Timothy. Lois, the grandma, and Eunice, the mother, as being the ones whose faith inspired Timothy to be all that he needed to be the kind of man that God called him to be. We need to recognize our mothers. We need to recognize that our mothers gave birth to us, but they also inspired us in life to be who we are. They can speak wisdom, they can speak understanding, they can stand by in the direction that they take. Some of you were raised by single mothers who had to be both mother and daddy, who stood in the gap, who stood firm and did the things and did the work and supported and carried on. And that's a tough job being both parents. But you've got good mothers who did it and got you here today. The very fact that you're here in this service today says something about your mothers that have led you to God, that have led you to a place that you recognize, hey, it's time to get close to God. Hallelujah. Go ahead and tell Bo to bring the little ones in. Wrap their class up. There she is, yes. That's Mama Summers playing at the garage way back. The dedication.
You still have that tie?
No, I don't have that tie anymore, I don't think. I don't have I don't throw anything away much. But yeah, that's her. And whenever Jen gets over on the keyboard and she begins to go, woo, that's the anointing of Sister Summers. As I prayed what to do, we honor, we love, we share. I want us to take a few minutes. Think about your mother. My mother went to be with the Lord 6 years ago, Easter Sunday. And I miss her. Today, we have some roses. Got a few up here. And I want all of our children first to come get one rose and take it to your mama if your mama's here. If your mama's not here, then whoever brought you or the one that you feel the most. But we may not have enough to go around a whole lot, so I want the children to go first. And if there's some left after the children have their turn, then the adult, or the young children and young youth also. Get a rose and give it to your mom or your grandma. And let's just take time to love on one another. We go as far as the flowers go. Just trust God. Valerie finds some music to go in the background. But we're just going to spend the rest of this morning just loving on each other. If there's no flower to go around, you can go around and tell somebody that you love them. And a hug means a whole lot. This is something that, from my childhood, it was very special to me. And we haven't done it in a few years, and Valerie may hate me for this when it comes time to clean up after this. But, you know, it's something that in my grandparents' church, we would always go to Mother's Day with my dad's mother at their church. And we would come in on Mother's Day morning, and they would have the altar. Well, it wasn't really an altar because in the Baptist church you did not have an altar because you weren't a Catholic church. You had a bench that was turned to become the altar. To where that's where you went to get saved, was you went up and you laid your head on this bench and your knees on the ground, and that was where you would go to be saved in the service. But it was a bench, but it was the altar. That's what we call the altar. It wasn't like the altar we got here that was made put your knees on, but you put your knees on the floor and your head on the bench. But it was always, I remember, the look in front of the Bible stand as it was full of wildflowers, in order to show the love that we have for our mothers. Father God, Lord, we praise you. God, we thank you, Lord. Let's just love on our mothers and each other, Lord, for just a little while. Bless this day as we've set it aside for mothers, that, Lord, we can love on them. We can love each other, because that's what you've called us to do. You loved your mother so much that as you were leaving, you called John to take care of her as his mother, and her to take care of him as her son. That's the love that you had for her and a friend. God, let us love one another, Lord, today, in power and in truth, and we'll give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Come on.